Super Rugby Power Rankings for the Trans-Tasman competition, round number 2, ranking the 10 teams, not based on the table, but based on their present results, their form, to get a feeling for who are the kind of top teams at the moment and who are the bottom. As I said in the week 1 video, I haven't been doing these videos for over a year. I used to use a formula for it. I'm just doing it based on gut because we're only in a 5-week competition. But yeah, here we go. We'll go through where I feel the 10 teams are at. And as always, you guys can let me know your thoughts on who you would have higher, lower, and so on. 10th, and no change. I've still got the Melbourne Rebels. They are none from 2, as are all the Australian teams at the moment. I mean, they did improve. Couldn't have gotten much worse than the round 1 50 points to 3 drubbing at home. They go down 35-13 away. So it's kind of an improvement, but it's still a bonus point loss to the bottom ranked New Zealand team. I don't know if there's a bright side in that, but they scored more than 3 points. So there you go. Rebels maybe on the improve. 9, and I've still got the Waratahs here as well. No change for them either. That doesn't look straight on the camera. It looks straight from where I'm sitting. There you go. That looks a bit less OCD offensive. Maybe. They lost again. If there's one thing they've proven is that they can score points. They scored, 21 against the Blues and scored 40-odd against the Canes. So they can certainly score points, but what they've also proven is their defence lacks a wee bit. They've conceded 48 points against the Blues and 60-odd the round before, so 100-plus points conceded, although they have scored a few of their own. So, again, maybe there's a slight bit of a bright side in that they can consistently score points, but you may be clutching at straws, looking for too much to be optimistic about there. Next team. Kind of pains me to do this, but I am going to chuck the Reds here. I had them in 5th. Whoa, that doesn't look good from that angle. 5th. Based on the AU form. But if there's one thing we're seeing in the Trans-Tasman thus far is that the AU form is not translating well into success in Trans-Tasman. We're only 2 rounds in, but remember 2 rounds into a 5-round competition is almost at halfway. They've had 2 really disappointing results. 2 really disappointing results. Some of the sides you can look at from Australia and go, one good one, one bad one, or at least one not too bad and then one quite bad. These ones, I think, are both quite bad. So I am reflecting that with them dropping from 5th to 8th. They just got an absolute hiding at home. I know it's against the Crusaders, so you can't punish them too hard. But you're at home. You had more or less a full-strength side. Needed to be within touching distance at the bare minimum, and it was nowhere near it. So, yeah, they lost. They lost 63-28. That was just a terrible one. And there you go. Reds are in the bottom rung. Next, in 7th, I have put the Brumbies, and I have dropped them as well. I had them in 6th. I'm dropping them to 7th. There was some talk that they should have been a little bit higher last week, and I would have said so. I could have entertained that argument based on their result against the Crusaders. But boy, did they not back it up against the Chiefs. They ended up going down 40 points to 19. Again, they're the second-ranked Aussie team against the second-ranked New Zealand team, so it needed to be closer than that. I know it's away from home. I know the Brumbies have got a tough fixtures list with away games to 1, 2, and 3 from New Zealand, but it needed to be closer than 21 points. It needed to be, and it was not. So it's a disappointing one from the Brumbies. They dropped 1 spot. One side that's up, despite losing, is the Force. And it's a weird one because when I used to do it based on the formula, you could only really go up by winning unless other teams around you lost by a lot more or against much weaker opposition. And the Force are none from 2, but they are the only Aussie side to not get hidings in either game. Both games have kind of been a bit disappointing, and I know after the game at the weekend against the Highlanders, Force fans, some of them were maybe a little bit critical of the coaching setup and thinking maybe there needs to be changes. after seeing the other results, I think in the scheme of things, the Force results are not looking too bad. We do have to keep in mind the Force haven't travelled yet. They have been 2 games at home, and it's a long trip to go and play the Force. So it may be that we see a turn of events, but I don't know. The Force have seemed to be a side which has got a decently organised defence. The guys get up off the ground and want to play for each other. They want to play for the fans. So they're not going to score a heap of points based on what we've seen from their attack. But the defensive side of things at least seems to be, pretty organised. They limited the Highlanders to 25 points, and they scored 15 of their own. So it was a 10-point margin. Remember, they were within a kick in that first week as well. So, yeah, I'm chucking the Force there. So we've got 5 Aussie teams taking out the 5 bottom spots, which means our team, the Hurricanes, has moved up from 7th. Remember, they've given the Tars and the Rebels bonus point losses. Bonus point wins for the Hurricanes. But do keep in mind that the 2 teams they've beaten are 9 and 10, and they conceded 40 points against these guys. And in the scheme of all the results, 35-13 against the Rebels at home doesn't actually seem that convincing. I know it's a bonus point win on the log. It looks great. Still, we need to see a bit more from the Canes, I reckon. We may do, but don't know that we've seen it quite all yet. Likewise, my guys, the Blues, they are essentially in the same boat. On the log, they are flying, but they've beaten the same 2 teams. 40 points they put on the Waratahs, 48, but they conceded 21. That game went within 1 point at one stage, so still not convinced that the Blues are all there. If they can repeat these performances against the more organised Aussie teams, then we'll have a better idea of where the Blues are at. But yes, 4th and 5th for those guys. The top row, I'm leaving the Highlanders here. It's a kind of it's a tough one for them because they did get a good result over in Perth, but they didn't get the bonus point, which I think in the scheme of things could be a difference maker. If there's going to be multiple teams going through undefeated, that may be pretty costly for the Highlanders, but still, they did well with the travel. They played what I'm ranking at the moment as the toughest Australian side, so they did well to come away with a 10-point win. The Chiefs put their second-ranked Aussie side to the sword at home. I don't know that it's expectations. It's maybe exceeded expectations a bit, but 40 points to 19. When you look at what these guys did, maybe puts it into a bit of context. That's why the Crusaders are still the number 1 side. Chiefs get 40 points to 19 win over the second-ranked side at home. The Crusaders do one better and go 63-28 over the top side away. The Crusaders are still just looking the absolute business. Whether this translates into performances in the next round kind of remains to be seen. Like I said, I'm keen to see how the Blues and the Hurricanes go up against different teams. The Brumbies will certainly be looking to bounce back against the Blues. The Reds are just looking atrocious right now. I don't know what they do. I don't know how Brad Thorne turns it around, because whatever they said at halftime at the game of the weekend didn't do the job. And how the Force go on the road is really going to be one to watch. I really wish them well. I think they're a lot of people's favourite kind of second team because of that underdog story, and they're a bit of a talking point at the moment in terms of they've actually, kept some pride in the jersey thus far. But anyway, I think a lot of us hope that the gulf that is there at the moment kind of disappears and that we get some proper competitive games. Round 1, we at least had a couple of games go down to the wire. Didn't really have that in round 2. We will see if there's a turnaround in round 3. But anyway, that's the rankings for the Super Rugby Trans-Tasman teams for round 2 of the competition. You guys let me know your thoughts. Do you still think the Crusaders are number 1? I think it's pretty hard to argue with them being any position but number 1 based on that result. Do you think there's a bit of optimism based on what we've seen from the Rebels and the Tars? Can the Blues and the Hurricanes back up? You guys let me know your thoughts. Do drop the video a like if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Consider supporting our Patreon. Buy me a coffee. All those links in the description. Good times. And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.